As seen with several of the recent Star Wars releases from Lucasfilm, the newest Disney Plus show, The Acolyte, has revealed significant issues concerning the creative team's lack of dedication to the franchise's lore and spirit of continuity. Early episodes of the series highlighted both poor writing and production quality, but perhaps more concerningly, they introduced lore-breaking elements such as the forced conception of the twins, Osha and May, within the Coven of Witches. Episode 4 seemed to further muddy the lore by featuring Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi, who according to the previously established timeline shouldn't be born for another 40 years. While some have pointed to the establishment of his age in the old EU, which is now classified as non-canon, this piece of lore about the character's age was also cited in several other resources, including an official behind-the-scenes companion guide to the film. However, many fans feel the bigger issue is how this appearance and his involvement in the story threatens to reframe his skepticism about the Sith's return, and his statements about their extinction in The Phantom Menace, which all seems to imply that he was part of a Jedi cover-up. Wikipedia editors quickly adjusted their canon to account for this character alteration. However, the chance of maintaining any narrative cohesion between this show and the original 6 films has already been greatly damaged. None of this is surprising, as the state of Star Wars canon from the perspective of longtime fans has been contentious since Disney reclassified much of the existing expanded lore as legends. As was said by Lucasfilm at the time of this reclassification, quote, "For over 35 years, the expanded universe has enriched the Star Wars experience for fans seeking to continue the adventure beyond what is seen on the screen. When he created Star Wars, George Lucas built a universe that sparked the imagination and inspired others to create. He opened up that universe to be a creative space for other people to tell their own tales. This became the expanded universe, or EU, of comics, novels, video games, and more. While Lucasfilm always strived to keep the stories created for the EU consistent with our film and television content, as well as internally consistent, Lucas always made it clear that he was not beholden to the EU. He set the films he created as the canon. This includes the 6 Star Wars episodes and the many hours of content he developed and produced in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. These stories are the immovable objects of Star Wars history, the characters and events to which all other tales must align. Considering this information, and just as Lucas maintained, one would certainly expect the events of the films to remain untouchable. However, Lucasfilm's apparent abandonment of this principle reflects a concerning level of apathy. Dave Filoni, the company's chief creative officer, has publicly downplayed the importance of lore and canon, referring to them as tall tales that vary by perspective. While some may be surprised by these apparent lore and continuity conflicts in The Acolyte, it is consistent with Filoni's history of treating canon as a suggestion rather than a rule. In a recent interview with the WGAW podcast, Dave Filoni revealed his approach to canon. "I tend to look at it a little bit like Arthurian tales, to be honest, and how depending on what version you're reading and translation, they can be wildly different. But Arthur's usually Arthur and does the things he's supposed to do. Those things remain true. And that's very much folktale and fairy tale type of ideology. If we tell a story in animation, or if it's in a comic and then we bring it to the screen in a different way, we might make changes to it out of the medium, out of the bias of the person making it, but it should still maintain the heart and the important moments of what people liked about that story." So, in a nutshell, Filoni's approach to Star Wars canon is essentially to dismiss it. In comparing the Star Wars mythology to tall tales or Arthurian legends, he's suggesting that these stories are subject to reinterpretation and bias. However, unlike ancient legends such as Robin Hood or King Arthur, the Star Wars universe is a modern creation with specific rules established by George Lucas. Interestingly, Filoni also argues that while the creatives working at Lucasfilm can disregard the previous canon, the story should still capture the essence and pivotal moments that fans love. Yet, given the recent content from Lucasfilm, this claim rings hollow. The Acolyte series, for instance, portrays the Jedi of this era not as the noble guardians of peace and justice, but as corrupt, deceitful politicians, overreaching cops, or when it comes to their attempts to coerce Osha to join them, some feel that they acted downright predatory. This depiction starkly contrasts with the lore Lucas himself established, who, despite acknowledging the Jedi's organizational flaws and hubris, still remained determined to portray them as the most moral people in the entire galaxy. A recent article from Screen Rant further examined Dave Filoni's comments, highlighting the notion that Lucasfilm shouldn't be policing canon, but rather encouraging creativity. According to Filoni, if a contradiction is necessary to tell a story, it's acceptable as long as the story is enjoyable to the audience. He says, "Do you like the story? Well then it's canon for you." While this might sound like an acceptable approach to many fans, the reality is that with a few exceptions like Andor, the majority of Disney Plus Star Wars shows have been poorly written and executed, with The Acolyte being the latest example of mediocrity. Therefore, given Lucasfilm's continuing failure to produce even a moderately entertaining series, there seems to be no apparent excuse for undermining canon, which underscores a deeper problem with the studio's creative direction. What Filoni and many of the other creative heads at Lucasfilm seem incapable of understanding is that a mythology like this still needs to operate on a foundation of logic and consistency. It is the very basis of how fans can suspend disbelief and become fully immersed in this universe. And when it comes to a multimedia franchise, all of these entries still need to feel like they connect to each other. Before Disney's acquisition of the IP, the mythology of this rich and imaginative universe had historically proven to captivate fans, inspiring them to explore its stories across various mediums. As a decades-long fan of this franchise myself, the elements of consistency and continuity made diving into books, comics, and video games all the more rewarding and satisfying. Unfortunately, under Disney's Lucasfilm, most new productions feel disjointed and lack crossover appeal. For example, if you enjoyed Andor, you might not find the Book of Boba Fett or the Obi-Wan Kenobi series as engaging due to their stark differences in production and storytelling quality. Moreover, these series should have felt like extensions of the original 6 films. However, both title characters are significantly different from their film portrayals, and the events don't align with established stories, creating a disconnect that holds little appeal for fans. Now, with The Acolyte, which is set close to the prequel era, the disconnect is even more pronounced. Many fans feel that the series is entirely out of sync with the rest of the franchise, leading to more confusion and further disrupting what precious little chance for immersion there is. Overall, I firmly believe that consistency in lore is crucial for keeping the Star Wars universe immersive and enjoyable. Without it, new productions have only alienated longtime fans and undermined the rich, interconnected world that George Lucas created. Fans have historically cherished the lore of IPs like Star Wars. They love exploring complex mythologies to gain a greater understanding of the world, its characters, and its rich history. Sadly, Disney Lucasfilm has forced their remaining fans to accept the ideology that canon doesn't matter. Star Wars lore videos, once incredibly popular, have largely lost their appeal because under Dave Filoni's creative stewardship, the mythology is always changing. After all, if the current creators have proven that they don't care about maintaining the lore, why should the fans be interested in it? Even if the audience were to do as Filoni suggests and choose to only consider the content they enjoy as canon, the mental gymnastics that would be required to maintain a consistent mythos becomes nearly impossible. At the end of the day, well-maintained lore adds richness and complexity to any mythology, providing a foundation that fosters creative storytelling for talented writers who seek to faithfully expand upon it. History shows that contributors who respect an established franchise can do much to enhance its legendarium, which encourages fans to delve deeper into its universe. Tragically, however, without even considering the behind-the-scenes comments from the creator of The Acolyte, the content itself displays a blatant disregard for George Lucas's legacy and the contributions of many others before the Disney acquisition. These predecessors, inspired by the mythology and honored to contribute to this fascinating universe, viewed canon not as a barrier, but as a guide. Ultimately, Lucasfilm's insistence on this kind of haphazard approach undermines this legacy and has made it impossible for many fans to stay invested in the Star Wars universe. But I'm curious to know what you think about Lucasfilm's current view towards canon and continuity. How do you feel about the current state of Star Wars? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more sci-fi and fantasy news and lore. And if you're looking for other ways to show your appreciation, you can check out my Patreon page, where members get access to exclusive content and perks. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.